Let's face it, in a world where Wizards of the Coast has the ability to create new cards and create their own wealth generation, it's like a money machine. But that also means there are things that players should be watching out for. Hi everyone and welcome back. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again for stopping by the channel today. It's an interesting topic to really consider. And it's that kind of viewpoint not everyone will see. But when you look at Wizards of the Coast as a company, and the fact they can create new cards, new variants, new variations of the same card, different printing textures, different versions of foiling, non-foiling, extended art, regular art. And of course, each of those things could be a common, an uncommon, mythic, rare. But each of them has their own place in the market space, because they are harder to get based on which variation you're going for. Now, for a long time, a lot of people thought it wouldn't matter. But over time, it is starting to become apparent that it does matter. There is a difference in a high-end player who goes for the fanciest, flashiest version versus a player who just wants to own the card and play with it, as well as players who want the mid-range version. You know, they can't quite afford the top end. They're going for kind of the mid-range, in-between kind of hard copies. It's one of those conversations that most people are either one side or the other. They think the card's going to zero or the card's going all the way up. But what everyone realizes is Wizards of the Coast is making money. And the longer I see this happening, the more I've come to the conclusion that Wizards is trying to create their own new economy in Magic the Gathering. I'm not quite sure we're there yet, but it's where that's where my brain is leading me towards. And this is what I mean. I'm going to show you a first card here. Take a look at this. So here's an original Tarmogoyf, guys, okay? When you look at Tarmogoyf future site, you can see it had the high. It was like 200 and something bucks, okay? Just over 200. And that was way back 2014 all the way through to 2016. It started coming down. And the reason it came down is, of course, reprintings. When we saw it come around, I think it was the original Modern Masters series is the first time we saw it. But it's had printing since then. Now take a look at Modern Masters 2015. So you see it coming out. It starts like 150. And it just caves all the way down. Again, as the years go by, later printings of the card come along, forcing this price down. So again, if we go back to the original version, you can see it's like 30 something bucks. That's the future site version. This is one of the newer versions, and it's going for $14, $15 US, right? Very, very affordable for the average player. And then when you take a look at this one, this is the Ultimate Masters box topper version. And that's $64 and some change, okay? And you can see, I was going to put all these prices in, but you realize it doesn't matter. That's when it first came out, and the prices always drop. So you can see there. It was 300 at release, and it just bombed all the way down. But now it's still staying steady at 60, 70 bucks. And then you have that question to yourself, like, is it actually selling? Is it moving at those prices? And here's the interesting thing. It is selling at all those price points. It's selling most at the cheapest version. It is then selling at the mid-range version, and even that box topper version, although it's not selling every day, in a month, it's still having 20, 30 sales when you check out various websites and various stores to see how they're doing. Now, the real key seems to be the playability factor of these cards. If you look at recent decks for Tarmogoyf, you can see Izzet, Jund. It's over here on the right side. Tamir, Zoo, Sultai, Bug, Jund. It goes all the way down there. Legacy, Modern, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you can see that. But you can see where Wizards is going with this. Just like they've given us draft boxes, set booster boxes, collector boxes, Ultimate Master box topper box, there's different versions for different customer base. And at first I kind of thought it was a little bit off, but now when you see the sales falling in, there are fewer sales of the highest version because it is the most expensive, and only the highest players who can afford the top end cards go for that version. They see what's the best version and they buy it. The 1%, 2%ers. The majority will fall into the lower end cycle of that card. They're going to pay the 10, 12 bucks. And then there's some mid-range people who maybe want an original OG version printing, and that's that $30 version. So there's a different type for everyone, different price points for everyone, but it's more affordable, more accessible to everyone. Now imagine taking that concept, and not just from Tarmogoyf, that's the simplest version, but you start spreading it across any card, any version of any type. Think about all the cards that have value. So right now we're seeing it with a card like Ragavan. I had the images, but I'm not going to pump this up for this video. It isn't necessary. When you look at the original Ragavan, it came out, it was like a $60, $70 card, shot up to just over 100, kind of came down. You can check out the stats after. Pause the video and take a look. And that was what, in 2021. So we're 2 years, we're into 2023. It's coming around again, of course, as that multiverse version has the kind of Kaladesh framework, but there's also the Halo version with the special kind of foiling. Different price points. $150 card versus like a $60, $70 card. And of course, the original version, Modern Horizons 2, is going to slowly dip down. The price is slowly falling because it's had other printings suppressing the price point. And I don't think Wizards cares about that. I think they care that they're meeting the needs of each of those price point players, the 1%ers, the 10%, and the 90%. Okay, it's still an expensive card and it's still controlled. Now, it may seem kind of rushed. It's only been a few years. But it's almost like a testing of the water, a sounding of this new wealth generation technique. Okay, when they saw cards come along like Mox Amber. You guys know I had, or I probably still have, the world's largest collection of Mox Ambers in possession. Okay, hard copied in binders, looking beautiful. Before it came out, before they reprinted it in the Brothers War, in the retro frame type versions and all those little special serialized versions and stuff. And no, I don't own any serialized versions. I didn't want to pay that kind of cash. I didn't think it was worth it. When you look at those, it dove the price down from that $50, $60, $70, $80 level and brought it all the way back down to $30. Okay, and that's not even a full reprinting. It's a kind of a specialized thing for Brothers War. It will recover faster than people realize. But in between that, they saw the price point. They look at all the sales happening across the board and they say, hey, there's a lot of wealth here we can tap into. So maybe we should ramp this up. It came out in 2018. Time to move the bar. And I did, at the time, estimate 5 years. 4 to 5 years for a card like that if it became popular. But that's the key. The key to the vault is the fact that Wizards of the Coast, they can actually change the dial. They can tune this in or tune this out any way they want. If they want Triumphs to become more expensive, they just don't reprint it for a while. And they keep that land desirable. They want Shocklands to have more value, just stop reprinting for a few years, let the market slowly suck those cards dry. But they realize they can't offend the lower end player base or the mid-range player base. So they're going to keep it somewhere in a specialty product, somewhere coming around. And as they test this wealth generation technique, as they refine it, and kind of tune it in to all the levels, then they will try to max it out and maximize that potential, but they're not there yet. The setback was the 30th anniversary, the slap to your face wallet blow that the majority, the 99% all said, forget this, we're not stepping on that. And that was the one wrench they've had, but when you look at the cards, you can take a look at Ragavan, take a look at other cards. Mox Tanalite is not a good card right now, right? It came out, and everyone's like, it's Mox, we have another Mox. I was so excited, but then I realized that suspend, Joria's bug and stuff was the only way to kind of get those counters off. But if they want that card to go up, we've talked about this before on the channel kind of jokingly, it's like all they need to have is like a 0 casting cost artifact that removes all counters. And all of a sudden that card becomes very worthwhile, very playable, and it works in conjunction with another card, so it's not considered overly powerful because it needs another card to connect with it. It's not like a real, true Mox where it just comes out and you got mana there. So Wizards likes joining cards like this. So the potential for cards like that to be joined later, a lot of value. A lot of value. When you look at cards like Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, Cabal Coffers, even Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, all these cards have that certain price point. And if Wizards wants to turn the dial up, they can by creating cards that fit into those cycles or just by not reprinting. That's the best part about their situation is they control the printing press. And when players like us all see the values tuning up, we're like, oh my goodness, my fetch lands haven't been reprinted in years. I got some real money here. And then they can trade that in, work that toward whatever they want to go for. But we all feel good about it because you've made some money. And when Wizards thinks, ooh, it's getting too tight, we're offending too many players, or Wizards wants to cash in on this new capital, they dial it down by reprinting it. I don't think they're there on the fine-tuning of it yet, but it really does appear that this is the route Wizards of the Coast has chosen to take. Since they can't tap into the reserve list the way they want to by reprinting it, they're going to tap into other avenues of cash flow by creating their own secondary magic economy. By saying they don't tap into it, they're going to, of course, deny that to the ends of the earth, right? No, we don't follow the secondary market. But they are closely following it. And not only following it, I think they're engineering it. I think they are actually creating that secondary wealth line based on where they feel the cards need to be. They want a specialty card that looks amazing. They could do a serialized specialty version of a card with unique artwork. They did the One Ring, 1 of 1. They do serialized cards. All these things will have certain value points placed on the 1%, the 2%ers who have the top-end cash flow versus the mid-range people who maybe can afford 1 or 2 expensive cards. And they also realize when they make cards expensive, it can draw in nostalgic players from the reserve list collection side as well. They have a lot of different ways of tapping in. And the longer this goes on, and the further you see it, you would think it's not possible. You're like, no, that never happens. But I just showed you Tarmogoyf, and you can look at the sales yourself. You can look at the Ragavan, the different versions from 2021, and as we go along from the list version, you can start seeing the meandering of these product points. When they think a card needs to be more common, let's say like the Swiftfoot boots, they just put their foot on it, get it? They just squish it down and say, here's the card. We've smashed the price down with multiple reprintings. It's not a $20 card anymore. It's all the way down. And they make it affordable for everybody, and they know they've killed that card, but they also know they can make a better version of it. They have infinite canvas space to create new cards. They just have to have the desirability to do so. So when you're looking at your wealth generation of cards, when you look at that Ragavan and the different versions, chances are it will hold value over the long run if Wizards deems that card valuable enough to maintain. So it's not always a waste of money to go out and spend money on a Ragavan. It's not, because that card will hold value over the long term and you get to play with it. And it's only after a number of years where Wizards either makes a better card or decides that card is, kind of like an eternal, it's going to be really good, and they'll just kind of check mark off the box and make it always hard to get. And they'll do it every 3, 4, 5 years. We haven't seen Mana Vault for a while. Sorry, not Mana Vault. Mana Crypt. Cards like that, they seem to have a certain price point they want to keep, knowing it's like a very flashy, expensive card. They want to keep that there. That's why we haven't seen it as often. All these little tiny checks on the box of wealth creation, they're checking off all the boxes in my mind, and I'm seeing it play by play. So where I used to always be fearful, I'm not quite there yet, but when I got really fearful about buying the Shoulders I bought from Dominator United, I'm not so worried now, because I don't think they're going to pump that card out every day. I think, yes, they'll eventually reprint it enough times like Tarmogoyf, but they'll keep specialty versions and unique versions around that will have that higher price point. So buying the right version, if you're an investor collector, might matter to you. But if you're a player and you wait long enough, these cards do come around again and they get knocked down in price. Even these high-end mythics, because Wizards want you to have access to it so you don't feel denied. That's what I'm feeling right now. I don't know. This could all be like a tinfoil hat theory from the Soldevi army, but that's just the feeling I get when I start looking at all these different price points and different bars on the cards and different variations of the cards that have been around a while, including fetch lands. When you look at all the different versions, they all seem to hold a certain price point. And the reason you know they're holding that price point is because they have sales in every category. If you see sales on a weekly, monthly period in between all those price points, you know that the market is accepting all the different versions at those different points. It may not be you or me, but there are people buying them and recognize that value, and they think they have value at that point because they're willing to pay the price. Anyway, that's where I feel right now. I can't wait to see the comments in the comments section. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me. I'm going to walk away now and go make some dinner for the family. I'll see you guys soon. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out on the channel today. A big shout out to all the special patrons out there, because let's face it, without these patrons, content like this is not possible each and every day. Thanks for supporting the tinfoil hat army of Soldevi Excavations. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video today. You're one of those types, eh? You just can't help it. You gotta stay to the end credits, see what's happening at the end. Marvel movie scene, that's right, Dominaria 2018, going up there into the 20K box for the eventuality that we get to 20K at some point. I mean, that bar hasn't moved for a long time, but you know what? One day it will. It'll move along. Something crazy will happen. New subscribers will come in, and it'll be amazing. Thanks a lot for hanging out. I hope you guys had an awesome day in the world of Magic. And don't forget, when you go to play, when you go to the pre-release for March of the Machines this weekend, bring a friend. Have a good time. All right, guys. See you later.